day, good people. You're listening to Lifting the Veil with Carrie Lee live on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Today we are joined by the good people at Collective Evolution. And I think today I have more of you on than I ever have, coming from two different locations. I think I'll just let everybody introduce themselves. For everybody that doesn't know, Collective Evolution can be found at collective-evolution.com. And let's start with everybody on Joe Martino's side. Hi, Joe. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having us on. My name is Joe Martino, and here I'm just going to let everybody kind of just go through, I guess, who else is on here. So we'll go over to Matthew next.
Hello, Carrie Lee. This is Matthew speaking here, guys. Thank you very much for having us on the show today. I'm really excited to just talk about everything, and it's really cool to have us all here, the amount of people that are, which is cool. It's been a while, Carrie.
It's been too long, but everything in its own time, right? And Tara.
Hi. I just want to say hi.
Might have to come a slight bit closer there.
My name is Tara. That's pretty good.
Hi, honey. How are you?
I'm excited to be here, for sure, definitely. I haven't had a chance to actually be part of one of the shows yet. So
no, this is awesome. For those of you that don't know, Lifting the Veil has interviewed Collective Evolution, I think 3 or 4 times now. And you guys are one of the first people I ever had the opportunity to interview before I was even doing radio, when I only did like 2 podcasts. So it's really good to have you back, and it's awesome to have so many of you with us. And now over to Mark DiNicola. Hi, Mark. How you doing?
Well, I'm doing very good. I'm happy to be back. Like you said, I'm Mark, and right now it's just me here, but Alina's hoping to join me shortly. She's just in the middle of something, so she might also join in at some point.
That's awesome. Now, for everybody that doesn't know, Collective Evolution put 2 films together, one Collective Evolution 1 and 2. They've also done a lot of work. There's a video out there that's very informative on fluoride and several other topics. So many good video blogs that are coming out there on the shift that we're all going through. So why don't we talk about, I'll let just anybody go. I'll leave it up to you. Let's talk about CE, what your mission statement is, kind of, sort of, and where you started off and where you're going.
All right. Well, I mean, Collective Evolution, I mean, if we were to give, I guess, the Coles Notes version of how it all came together, is essentially, in our own lives, we were going through a bit of an experience where we felt the changes that were starting to happen. I mean, this was probably about very early, or just the tail end of 2008, that things really started to turn into, I guess, the more conscious awakening aspect of it, where you started to see, I guess, beyond more than just the system stuff, because I think seeing into the whole system and how all that worked was something that was always there, but it was really this bigger change, this like kind of this conscious aspect of things. And so it came from, basically, we realized, hey, we want to create something. We want to create a little bit of a foundation that basically starts out as a website and will allow us to share our experiences and our findings of what we've been going through and what we've been seeing happening on the planet. And because we realized there was a lot of other people that were kind of feeling the same thing, or they were going through the same thing, but they didn't know exactly what it was, very much like us. We were confused too. Like, there was a lot of questions about what's happening, what's all this about. So we put together this I guess we can call platform, and it's essentially become like an alternative media / production company / community that is putting out films. It's putting out articles and stuff like that all the time. We have events, and our content is basically geared towards, anything that can be on, I guess, the more what you can call spiritual side of things, all the way to the very practical side of bringing in solutions and bringing in things that can really help to transform our world from something that you can start doing right away. That's kind of what, I guess, CE does, if you had to put it in a quick version.
I know that sounds good, and it's something that I have to say I admire so much, because Lifting the Veil is all about that, bringing the solutions. It's very easy to connect with you and be able to work together and see the positives that we can, string together to put those solutions forward. So, I mean, I have to thank you for the inspiration that you've all given me over the last few years. It's been really, really helpful. I have to say, it just seems that every single time I need this pep talk, Alina, all these social groups are just amazing. Facebook is one of them. It puts out these beautiful pictures with these fantastic words that are always needed at that moment. And I'm going to be a little selfish here and say, it totally feels like they're written just for me in those moments. And I have to say, I know she's not here, but thank you, Alina, because they're always like that extra affirmation for whatever's going on in my life at that moment, where I'm like, yeah, that's exactly where I'm at, and I know it's time to push forward. And I know that you're all collectively working together, so thank you all.
I'll be sure to tell her that you say thank you, and I know that she wrote them all specifically for you. They're not for anybody else anyway, so there you go.
Awesome. Now you guys have a bit of an announcement. There's a new web magazine. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Any of you guys else want to take it real quick? Or
you got it.
Marky, go ahead.
Sure. All right. Yeah. So that's the big thing that we're kind of really excited to have recently launched. Right now, it's just available in a preview format, and January will actually be the official launch. But it's actually something that we call CE Magazine, and it's basically bringing what we already do in the video making world, what we already do in the website world, what we do in all the articles that we write and all the blogs that we do and everything, just bringing it into a format that takes things a little bit further, and it's a format that's very popular right now. I mean, there's barely anyone you'll come across that doesn't have some form of magazine or some form of thing like that people can subscribe to and get access to a lot of really interesting and cool information. So we decided to step into that realm, and it's something that we've been working at for quite a while, and we're all really excited to release. And it's actually, if you look at the sample version that's out right now, it gives you kind of a bit of a taste of what to expect in it, but it also gives you what to expect that's not in the sample version that we're going towards. And I know it's something that all of us have something to contribute directly, and it's also something that we're looking into getting things to go a little bit deeper and to explain things even more specifically than we ever have before, fully backing things up and going to places that people want to go, because it seems like people want to dig deeper. So we're trying to make this magazine one of the key resources in that search. So that's the thing that we're really excited to launch right now, and definitely all the subscription information, all the stuff like that, and even the free preview is all available on the site, so you can definitely all go check that out. But that's our big project, and that's the thing that we're all very excited about right now at the team.
That's awesome. So if anybody wants to take a look at the information, they can find it at collectiveevolution.com, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Awesome. Now, we're talking about this shift. And some people are going to be listening going, oh, here we go again, because, not everybody's on the same page necessarily. Or, I find that some people are on the same page and just have different language to express what it is that they're going through. But let's talk about this shift right now and what we've seen happening in the last couple of years as far as things speeding up and realities being brought to our table and at our feet very quickly and repetitively till we get the point. And what we have to expect as we're going through these things. Let's talk about the shift.
Sorry, it broke up at the end, but I think you said let's talk about the shift?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, the shift is many things. If you really, I hear what you're saying, and in terms of the, I guess, the aspect of, okay, here we go again. It's like, we've been talking about this thing, and what exactly is it? What does consciousness mean? What is exactly happening? And like, why is there a lot of, I guess, catchphrases being thrown around that nobody necessarily knows exactly what they mean, but it just keeps getting thrown around. And so I think what you're looking for is basically what exactly is it in a practical sense? What are we going through? What's happening on the planet? And
Indeed.
I've been feeling that myself a lot, in the sense of, I think that's, something that we're really working towards is actually changing how we go about and speaking about this stuff. And so in that change, here's I guess, that's what we'll stick to. We'll stick to going about it in a way where we can really make it practical. So I would have to say that the shift is kind of like, if you really look at the planet right now, if you look at everything that's playing out, and if you just talk to people, we'll start at the very basic level. In your everyday life, you're talking to people, they feel like, with their jobs, with their lives, with their view on the world, all this sort of stuff, it just feels like everybody's just tired. They're tired of what they're seeing. They're tired of what they're doing. They're tired of just having the repetition, the cycle. Something inside of them is saying, there's got to be more than this. There's got to be more than just this repetitive idea that it's, wake up, go to work, la-di-da-di-da, and everything just kind of feels blah. And in that tiredness, in that feeling, which is coming more and more and more to the surface, which is becoming more intense, we're feeling what you can call the shift. And what that is it's like a kick in the ass, so to speak, to say, what you're doing here is you've been doing for a long time. They're saying this to humanity, right? And we're ready to move on from it. We're ready to make changes. We're ready to say, okay, I mean, look at all the people in the streets right now in all various countries all over the place who are kind of saying, yeah, I don't like the way the economy's run. I don't like the way these big corporations and everything that they're doing. They're basically, keeping money for themselves, and they're bailing themselves out. But when it comes to the people that need help, they're always the last one to be helped / never get helped. So there's all of these things that look at life, that look at how we go about life on the planet, that are coming to the surface saying, this doesn't make sense. We don't want to do it anymore. And the shift really pushes us to bring that to the surface in such a way that it's saying, we now need to take action on doing something different. Because the truth of the matter is, and this is when you go a little bit deeper, we are not limited to doing what we're doing on the planet right now. Meaning, the way the world is, the way it's structured, what's happening, we made it up. It's man-made. All these structures are man-made. So we can change that. And when you've done something so many times over and over and over and over again, you get to a point where you say, all right, we're ready to kind of change things here because this doesn't really make sense anymore. So that's what the shift is it's a change. It is something that touches not just, the change in society, but the change in ourselves, the change in how we operate, which is why people say a change in consciousness. Because the change in consciousness really is like a change in the way you're seeing things, the change in the way you're operating, the change in the way you are, thinking, so to speak, right? And that opens up a whole other level of stuff that you could get into, but in layman's terms, I would say that's kind of what the shift is.
No, that's an excellent explanation because, honestly, I think that all throughout the world, you see examples of it. I find it very odd to think that anybody isn't feeling it in some way, shape, or form. A lot of people, like I said, they don't have I don't want to say the right language, but they have different language to speak what it is that they're going through in their own shift.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's a good point you make, Carrie. This is Matthew speaking. And, to add to what Joe was saying is that, you're right. We're all going through this shift in our own individual way. Like in different cultures, we're experiencing different things. But at the end of the day, we are all still operating off of the same similar belief systems. It's just in a different context. And, when we say, okay, so we're making a shift in consciousness and we're starting to feel tired of the way that we're doing these things, what is it exactly? What are these things that we're beginning to feel tired of? And, it's the fact that we've put so much effort and we put so much energy into creating this system of society as well as just how we operate every day within our daily lives. It's this game that we've created that isn't in alignment with our natural state. And so when we look at these things like what we're playing with, we could bring up certain things like ownership, playing with fear, certain types of judgment, all the different emotional attachments that we have to all these belief systems that we're playing with. And, it's all this stuff that's creating separation from that natural state that I'm talking about, where it's really just a very playful and light experience where we're here just to understand that we're here to learn, we're here to grow, we're here to play, and now we're all connected. We're all connected to one another, we're connected to the planet, the animal kingdom, and each other as humans. And yet this game that we've created is so out of alignment with that. And, people are really feeling that it's beginning to become very effortful, like living in this survival mode kind of state that we're in, where we're getting up, going to work, having to make all this money and worrying about how much food we're going to have and what our life is going to look like tomorrow and even years down the road. It's like I look some people in the older generations is that it's so ingrained in them to be living in survival mode that they can't even actually really see what's taking place in the world. Like, you could even see a lot of people that are, say, a country like Spain or something, that is having millions of people going through a protest. But yet, people still get up and go to work tomorrow and not really think much of it because that lifestyle is so ingrained within them, and all that fear and everything, you know, it doesn't really allow us to see through those cracks of the belief systems and stuff. But, you know, with the shift that we're going through and everything that's changing, like Joe was saying, people are actually starting to ask more questions and to search, you know. I find that a lot of people are even asking, like, you know, who am I? Why am I here? Like, what is our purpose of even being here? Because they're feeling that repetitiveness, that daily just going to work or going to school and everything is like, we've been doing it. It's kind of getting old. You know what I mean? So it's just... Yeah,
definitely. It's not enough.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not fulfilling because, you know, because of that external search for everything. And it's really like people are beginning to see that it's just really a temporary satisfaction, you know, looking at all these material things and all this stuff that we place value on, but yet we've disconnected ourselves from actually feeling that sense of power or that sense of worthiness, that feeling of love that we all search for, that inner peace, you know?
Definitely. It's something that I see coming to a forefront even more so as we're moving forward. The idea that it's just not, it's not as easy to accept the daily routine anymore. It's like you're almost becoming defiant of it. I know that I am in certain ways. I'm really, my family and I are really kind of against the whole clock idea. We have them and we look at them, but we don't pay attention to them and we don't listen to them, if that makes any sense. Like, we look at the clocks and we know that they're there, and that's great, but we're not kind of revolving our lives around time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the way I see time is just that it's a tool, right? You know, it's something we create to experience whatever. It's part of our experience and we just use it as we need to, but just not attaching any sort of emotion to it and allowing it to just...
We'll be right back with Collective Evolution on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Welcome back to AmericanFreedomRadio.com. You're listening to Lifting the Veil live with Carrie Lee, and we are joined today by Collective Evolution. And right before the commercial break, we were talking about time constraints and time quickening and breaking out of the time paradigm. Do you want to continue from where we left off?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Sure. Sounds good. I was just mentioning how we can allow time, like when we attach to belief systems towards time and, you know, attach emotions to it, it can end up controlling us. You know, it's really about looking at like the whole resistance and how we fight time, because, you know, a lot of like throughout people's days, like even just when you're at work and stuff, you can be looking at the clock and right away it can trigger something with you and you're like, oh my gosh, it's only 2:00. I got to be here for another 3 hours or whatever, you know, and that's resisting of what's being presented in front of you, and it's really just taking you out of the moment. So yeah, I just wanted to briefly touch on that. If anybody else has any comments, is that, you know, when we attach this kind of stuff and we try and fight and resist just what's in front of us, then, you know, it can take us out of the moment, it can control us, and it's not really comfortable, you know. I don't find it to be very comfortable.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's when time, I guess, runs you, or when time is something that, I guess, defines. And Carrie, you were touching on that before the break. You're just kind of saying, like, we don't attach any emotion to it and all that sort of stuff. And I think that's the key, is, like, you know, also Matthew was saying it's like a tool, which it's exactly it. Is like, the way we kind of have to look at time is, all right, it's a tool because, you know, in order to kind of a little bit organize ourselves as being so many people, you know, we got to say, like, even for this show, okay, this show is going to be on at 5 p.m., so we know we can all tune into it, right? And other than that, I mean, that's all we basically need to attach to time, really. It's like when we get nervous because, crap, you know, I'm going to be late by like 5 minutes. Like, that's when the emotional aspect of it comes in. That's when we start judging people because, you know, they're late or because they don't do things fast enough or all that sort of stuff. And so I think, yeah, in terms of that, it's important that, I guess, we just kind of let go with time.
No, I was just, the only thing I was going to say is that I notice whenever I'm not paying attention to time is whenever I'm on time and my day goes really smoothly, and when I get caught up into the idea of time, I'm late for everything. Yeah. I'm stressed out all day.
That's a very good point.
And and I know it, and because I've become aware of it, I know when I start to get stressed out the time, I'm just going to be like, you know what, I need to gather my thoughts and just calm myself down, because as soon as I start stressing out about it, I'm the only one really hurting from it, A, and B, I'm the only one making it real, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that the crazy part is that, it comes right back down to you. You're the one that's in complete control. Well, not control, but you have it all within yourself. And if you want to stress out about it, then you're going to create that stress for yourself. And it's understanding that makes you want to walk away from it. But it takes a lot to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to make another point on this topic, because it is very prevalent in our everyday lives. I mean, we've created all these time zones and like the 24-hour clock and everything, and so much of our lives depend on time schedules. And, I remember being at Papa Frankel's house. I call him Papa Frankel tonight. But I remember being at Frankel's, and, I was talking to him, and I had brought something up where I was looking at the past, and I was saying, it took a really long time or something like that. And he just kind of looked at me and he said, well, what is time? And I kind of just thought to myself for a second, like I was going into kind of like an analytical explanation of what time is. And then he just said, time is perfect. That's all it needs to be, and that's all it ever will be. And I kind of just sat there and I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right. It's all of these belief systems that we attach to it, that where we try and define what time is and what time looks like to you and how we value time. But really, like with what Tara was saying, where if she's worrying about time and she ends up being late, that's perfect, because what happens in that situation is that she's holding on to a certain belief system that's creating emotion. Like if she were to be late, you could create all these stories like, oh my God, like is my boss going to get mad at me? And then that can go even further. Like if my boss gets mad at me, oh my God, am I going to be fired? If I get fired, am I going to have all this money? And it can just go like in a complete spiral as long as we keep feeding into it. But it's really just about understanding that, every moment that we're creating is absolute perfection, and it's always it's making a point of being in an observer state of what we can take from each moment and how we can learn, how we can grow, and how we can expand through that. But I just wanted to add that because that's something that's really resonated with me ever since, is that, time, no matter what, even whether we're late for something or we miss something or we're right on time, it's always, always perfect.
I can't say that I disagree with that. How do you guys feel about the idea of coming into some type of nomadic wandering state in all of this? Now, I don't know if I have to explain. I'm going to leave it with you, and if you need more explanation, I will.
I get what you're saying with that. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, it makes me picture, and I'm trying to think of the movie, the one, I think it's Mel Gibson or something, where what's that one movie where it's like Mad Max or something like that, where they're all a bunch of like in a nomad type world.
Yeah,
that's the image that came into mind when I heard you first mentioned that. But yeah, I don't know. My thoughts on it is that the shift, and I guess kind of everything, you want to call it like the world change, whatever you want to say, that we're going through right now. I don't feel like there's a set way that it's going to happen in any way, shape, or form. I can't say that it's going to be like, oh, we're just going to all of a sudden everything will be gravy and it'll just all start working. And I also can't say that it's going to be totally disastrous and we're going to kill each other. I can't say either of that. I think it's more believed that we would probably go into a nomadic world where we would be really like wanting to like, steal from each other and, doing this, that, whatever, and all that sort of stuff where everything's just all over the place. And I think a lot of that just comes from the fact that when you really look at it, mainstream media and the movies have really kind of created that idea more so than anything else.
Like the anarchy type?
Yeah, and the idea that, it's kind of going to be really messy. I mean, sure, there is going to be some mess here and there. I mean, we see what happens with some natural disasters, but I also think that a lot of that is because the system is so prevalent. And with the system being so strong like that, you basically have any opportunity that people can have to get things a little easier, they're going to try and take it. But when you have your system more so collapse completely and people need to band together, I don't think we have time for killing each other and trying to survive in a world that's all over the place. I think it's realistically, if I had to say it from my own feeling inside, it's that we are not as violent. We are not as much interested in competition and greed and power as we think we are, in terms of people saying it's human nature to be like that. I really do not feel that. That is very much a learned behavior that we have taken on, and I also feel that it's very much one of those things that is really upheld by the system. When you look at how the system works, the very fact that every single day their media, their news, all that sort of stuff is geared towards creating fear. Really what that should be telling us is that they're trying to keep us in something. They're trying to maintain an idea that is false. And if they don't do it every single day, we would start reverting back to something that might be a little bit more natural to us. So what I'm trying to say by that is essentially that if all of this stuff that we're exposed to constantly was to start to diminish, so mainstream media wasn't the way it was, and there wasn't so much fear and all this stuff being pushed all the time, I think we would revert back to a state where, we are working together in communities, and we are working together to give everybody something. Because when you talk to the average person on the street, they all kind of want the same thing, to live in a world where we're all kind of working together. But it's only when they feel very much that they're in the system that they all of a sudden start seeing themselves as separate. But when they're stepping out of it, that's not there. They don't have that same feeling of, all right, now I'm out of the system. Now I'm still going to need to have all my greed, power, and whatever. Because what are you having greed and power towards once you're outside of it, right? Once you're outside of all the conditioning, you don't have the same level of, I guess, greed and power and all that sort of stuff towards just being. So I think
it loses power once you become aware of it, right?
Yeah. So I just kind of think that, there might be, a period of playing with some stuff like that if it were to go that way, but I can't say that it would necessarily last or be like that forever or anything like that.
Awesome. Any other comments?
Yeah, for me, when you mention the nomadic aspect of our experience, the way I envision it is, the universe is a playground, and our natural state is to just be in a playful state where, we're always open to experiencing and expanding our consciousness through experiencing different things. And, with the shift that we're going through right now, like what we were talking about with time is how we have all these sorts of different belief systems of what time is and how we feel about time. As we begin to let go of a lot of that and dissolve a lot of it, it's going to allow us to open up to just experience more in the present moment. And as we're dissolving these belief systems, of course, that's allowing us to connect with our inner essence, where we have that inner guidance system that's going to be driving us rather than just operating from all these programmed beliefs and conditionings. And I think with that, we're gonna see time differently, in a sense where it's not going to have the same value that it does now. And it's just going to be, eventually time will probably just be completely diminished from our experience. But as we're going through the shift, I think it'll be what it is. We'll see it for the tool that it is. And, eventually we'll get to a point where you can just wake up and say, okay, what do I want to do today? What do I want to contribute to just my experience in playing within the human experience, and just going about your day through that? Because if we look at a future, whatever, we can't say what the future is going to look like, but there are possibilities where we could have certain types of transportation and stuff that could allow us to get to the other side of the world a lot more quickly than we do now. So, and just let's say that we let go of belief systems of saying we have ownership of certain countries and land and all these borders and security and stuff like that. And if you were just able to wake up and say, you know what? I want to go to London, England tomorrow just to experience something. Like I have a friend there, or there's maybe something that I want to see or experience and feel out. And you just kind of go up, you just kind of get up and go and do it without any worry of the whole survival mode thing and all this security and just fear that we have now. So I think, as we do make a shift, that things will become kind of more nomadic in a sense, where we're not going to have the same type of ownership, even just within the houses. We could get to a point where we just share houses, we share shelter across the planet completely, where it's just that, we all have the same technologies that are being utilized across the planet, that's benefiting our human experience to allow us to experience more potential in things, make things easier, make things quicker, all the kind of stuff that we don't really enjoy doing by hand and stuff. Things could be automated, just like examples like that. But I mean, there is a lot of work to do before we get there. And it is about letting go of the belief systems and doing the inner work and stuff like Joe was saying is looking at all the paradigms that we've created through the greed and all this kind of stuff. It's really... Sorry. No, it's really about doing the inner work, making the conscious change. And yeah, we can absolutely get to that for sure.
I agree with you. Now, that being said, where do you see politicians and government ending up in this whole idea? Because obviously we see that it's all kind of, the paradigms are crashing down, and you can really see things for what they are, in a very uncomfortable way almost, because they're so blatant. Where do you see that going? I'm not looking for like a definite, but just your own formed opinion of what you see happening.
I'll take this one if that's okay with everybody. For me, it's like you might say, how can you draw this kind of similarity between these two things? But you can look at the politicians as the same thing as time, in the sense that right now they're just playing the role that they need to play, and they're keeping, I guess, the system in place, or they're keeping things the way that they are because that's the experience that we need. But the role that they play going forward is completely up in the air and could be completely different than the way it is now. They don't need to have the so-called power or control, or the fact that people look up to them or give them authority or see them as people that actually influence or do anything of that nature, if we don't abide by or don't just agree to keep up a system that says that they are that way. It's the same thing with time. We can let time be something that's there that allows us to get together at a certain time, or to keep things kind of organized, or to get things done a certain way. Or we can let it indoctrinate us to the sense of, oh, look at that, it was this day passed and I didn't get this done, I didn't get that done, oh my god, another thing's gone. So it can play that role. With the politicians that are in power, you can let them have this place where, oh, what they say is what's best, and they have to do this, and they need to instigate the change because they're the only ones capable of doing it. Or you can completely change it in the sense that, well, they're no different from any of us, and they're the exact same as we are, and we have the exact same power to create change. So it's just a matter of however we create them to be. And right now we're just keeping up a system where they're playing the role that they're playing, although that's drastically changing, and that's what the shift is creating. It's creating more of an environment where we're going to feel more as individuals that we don't need to be in a position of so-called authority to instigate something, and we don't need to be in a position of authority to live differently, or we don't need them to dictate what we can and cannot do. We can make changes, we can come together, and that's what the shift's, I guess, a kind of experience.
Right, and I think too, because right now in politics we see them as leaders, and we see them as.
Oh, we're going to have to get back to you after these messages live on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. And right before the break, we were talking about the different systems, political and whatnot. Did you want to continue where we were from there? Yeah,
I'll just jump in, just continuing with what I was about to say about the leadership aspect of things. I guess prior what was brought up was the fact that, right now we're looking up to the politicians and all that sort of stuff. And in a perfect world, the way politicians are described is they're kind of leaders of the country, so to speak. But really, when you really look at how it works, it's kind of not that way. And at the same time, maybe that system is due for a bit of a change. And so moving forward, people, I guess, ask the question, are we still going to have leaders, or are we still going to have, some people kind of at the top, as people say it, kind of calling some shots or bringing things together. And personally, I think it's to a degree, for however long it lasts, I don't know, I can't say any of that, but I do feel that there's still going to be a sense of leadership in some ways, and I don't mean it in the sense of now there's going to be a hierarchy. I just mean it in the sense of, hey, I enjoy, speaking. I enjoy bringing people together. I enjoy, doing things that keep everything organized, all that sort of stuff, so that if we needed a voice for a group of people that are all equal, so the voice would not be someone who's above them, but just kind of like a candidate saying, all right, so here's this group of people that are going to go and talk to this group. Instead of us all going, this guy's going to go and sort of just represent it. But it's not going to be out of like, okay, because of money or because of this or because of that. It's just you're having a leader in a sense who's just somebody whose skills or whose passion might be in around bringing people together and keeping things, kind of organized and on track type thing, so that the many can kind of be organized to a degree, right? So that it's not just one big free-for-all type thing. And it's not to say that now you're putting in a structure that keeps everybody organized and calmed down and all that sort of stuff. It's just about, working together and having kind of just a standpoint, just somewhat of a leadership role by people who are just kind of saying, yeah, I'll represent that, and that's it. And it necessarily won't even have to be elected. Maybe it will. I don't know. But it wouldn't be in the sense of like, all right, we're fighting for a real democracy here, or we're fighting for a real, type of, government. I don't think it's going to exist in that fashion. I just think there might still be forms of leadership which are truly about just leading, not about, saying, I now need to create a following, but just about, I'm just keeping things on track, that type of thing. So I think that's kind of what the future of things might look like as we move forward. And again, that's who knows? It just kind of feels that way.
Definitely, and we're talking about institutions and systems and whatnot. Let's briefly touch on schools and what you guys feel about what's going to happen with the whole education paradigm, or what is happening.
Well, I mean, I'm sure we could all have something just to kind of touch on with this. I mean, we all have had experiences, but I think we're already little by little, we are seeing some changes happening within. I know I've talked to personally several people who are trying to just introduce programs into schools that bring in some things that are outside of the box, like, for example, yoga or meditation. I know those are small steps, but there are things that are just starting to kind of open up what school is about. So looking at education right now is about creating a particular type of person, right? It's creating someone who can follow tasks, who can do what they're told, all this sort of stuff, and who are learning a bevy of information, which they then just memorize and then repeat back, and then boom, after a certain amount of years, they're done, they get a piece of paper, they're in debt, they move on with life. It's more so about that. It's not truly about expanding the individual, whatever age they might be, and allowing them to just continue to add to society with what they're learning type thing. And I think what's happening now in schools is that they're trying to implement or trying to look at more aspects of the individual. So they're trying to just slightly, ever so slightly, I'm not saying it's changing a lot, there's just small changes, but it's trying to incorporate more. So here's some personal challenge that, hey, maybe we might actually talk about these. Here's some things about our inner self, meaning the self that we know is what empowers us, so to speak. Maybe we're going to look at that a little bit more. Maybe we'll be centered around health a little bit more. Stuff like that. That's just kind of opening up the mind to balance slightly more so than before the left brain and the right brain, which, I mean, as school is the way it is now, it's very left brain. It's very much so focused on, hey, just memorize this, do this, blah, 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 and, kind of move on. I think those are kind of small changes that are happening now. I've heard that it's very, very challenging to actually implement any of this stuff because the school boards, I know at least here in Canada, are very, very strict about what they do let in schools. And I think they're instructed to do that. But at the same time, I do feel that as people are in those positions, they do feel like they need to uphold a certain level of, academic and all that sort of stuff, and I guess it's academia, but it's very rigid right now. And I mean, moving forward, I think we can all kind of imagine what would be ideal based on some of the things we touched on. And it would just be a system where it's not about, okay, here's all the subjects you have to learn and you have to repeat back, but let's choose what you're interested in. Maybe let's explore what you might not, or you might be interested in, because not everybody knows exactly right at the beginning. And at the same time, it's not necessarily about, all right, here's a certain age, now go to school, and then here's an age where you're supposed to be done, now you're finished. It's about, when do you feel like you want to go? When do you feel like you want to expand yourself? When, you might go for a couple of years and then, hey, I'm going to go play with that stuff that I learned. And then you come back a year later and say, I want to learn some more stuff. And so allowing it to be more of a come and come as you...
Fluid, like you were saying.
Exactly, and less rigid and less about repeating this system and more about expanding humanity, right? Because realistically, I mean, we were just talking about this earlier about science. It's like education has created, and I mean, this isn't to the fault of the people, really. I mean, it's created a certain type of person that sometimes when it comes down to science and they've been heavily ingrained in it, it's like everything that you try and present to them that is outside of what they learned is just constantly just dismissed. No, that's not possible. No, that's and there's an educational scientific arrogance about it. And that just comes from the education, and it becomes very closed-minded. And I think our system is very about closing minds instead of keeping them open. And it's about competition instead of saying, all right, how can we constantly, truly expand humanity and what we're doing? And I think that's kind of what education would be more so geared towards.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I don't know. I feel kind of almost excited in a way because I do actually teach kids yoga. At the present moment, I'm teaching 3 days a week in the mornings. And my school is actually, they're very open. They actually are very open to the benefits of what this can actually bring and meditation can bring and quieting the mind and actually bringing tools into everyday life to help these children cope with their stress of daily life and school stress. But at the same time, the school I'm teaching at is a private school, so it's not an open concept for anybody. And the parents have to be on board with it as well. They have to sign a waiver. They also have to bring their children in early. And it's been actually the most expanding experience I probably can say to date, to be able to see the way that the education system has been able to actually form and have such an impact on children's lives. Because we were in class the other day, and I've had them up teaching each other different poses and such, and I got them to get into partners, and I asked them to explain to their partner how teaching made them feel, how it made them feel to get up and to get in front of a class of your own peers and teach. And none of them understood the question. None of them understood what I was asking them because they couldn't understand that I was asking them to talk about their feelings because they were so used to always having like a direct of nothing to do completely with them. It's always an external question because school's so external that their questions are usually based external, and we had to actually have a group discussion on what it was to talk about how you felt when you did something, which I always thought was really interesting. Happened this week, so.
That is, thank you so much for sharing that because it is very concerning, first off, that, I know from my daughter being in school, the idea of feeling wasn't something they wanted to touch. It was just all logical. There's no heart and mind blend. And I'm really interested to hear more of the stories that are going to come from you as a teacher because you're on testing grounds right now. This is like a little bit of an experiment. And I applaud you, and I would hug you if I could because I think what you're doing is fantastic. And I'm so glad that even though it's private and it's not accessible for absolutely everybody, it's a step and something that maybe others will catch on to and see the benefits of. So thank you for what you're doing because that's greatly important. Okay, now, sorry?
Yeah, this is Matthew here. I just wanted to further touch on both of what they've spoken about is, looking ahead at the future of school, I think it's really important to just look at all the belief systems around what education means, what it represents.
And once again, I apologize, Matthew. We'll be back with you right after these messages. And welcome back to AmericanFreedomRadio.com. We are live. Today is Saturday, the 15th. Is today the 15th? No, it can't be the 15th. What's the day today? It's December the 8th. Oh, I don't know anything. I'm just so not with the times. We're live today on Lifting the Veil with Carrie Lee with Collective Evolution. And it's been an interesting first hour, and on to the second we go. But right before the break, Matthew, you had a few words that you wanted to share as far as the system, the education system, what you see happening in the future. I'd love for you to continue with that.
Yeah, awesome. It kind of sums up what Joe and Tara were saying is, my observations from when I was a kid going through the system is that, I was never really one for school. I love to learn. I absolutely love to learn. But the way the system is set up, I didn't enjoy it. And, I think looking at the future of education is really going to be based on on looking at all the belief systems that are involved within the system now. Because, obviously we understand that it doesn't need to be this way, but there is a sense of, like what Joe was saying, like the academia mind frame where, they just believe that this is the way that we have to do things, and this is the only way that we can go about and learn. And, if you really look at it, what's involved within the education system? It's based on authority, it's based on fear, it's based on competition, it's based on segregation. And those were the things that I really did not enjoy in school because it didn't resonate with what I felt inside myself. I really felt like I was selling myself short by having to adhere and abide by these rigid structures. It didn't resonate with just that aspect, kind of like you can kind of say like that nomadic sense, like you were talking about, where we're here to learn, we're here to play, and it's not about saying this is what you need to do, this is what you need to learn, and this is how you need to go about it. It's really, like Joe was saying, is about expanding ourselves and creating something that's more supportive rather than suppressive, and shaping people and fitting them in a box to repeat a system that nobody even enjoys anymore. I know lots of students, and I've talked to a lot of people, and whether it's elementary school, high school, or even post-secondary, college and university, I always ask people, like, do you really absolutely enjoy being in school? What is it about school that you enjoy? And a lot of times people just bring up the idea of that, they just believe that they need to get this diploma so that they can support themselves when they get out of it, so that they can make money, and not necessarily actually enjoying the whole system of it. There's people who like learning different topics, but even in looking at that, looking at the way that we're being taught right now and learning things, people learn in different ways. Some people are visual people, some people are audio people, some people are feeling hands-on type people. And, a lot of the way that we learn things isn't geared towards each individual, like Joe was also saying. I really think that moving forward we're going to be looking at these belief systems and removing the rigidness of these structures and just being supportive and more understanding. And rather than saying, like, just to give you a very, very simple example, rather than saying, like, for example, in physics, say, this is what we've discovered, this is how it is, you need to learn this so that you can apply it to the outside world. Rather than doing that and shaping someone to believe that this is the only way that we can experience things, is, okay, this is what we've discovered, this is what we're playing with right now, but you beautiful children that have this amazing expansiveness with unlimited potential, look at this is where we've come to. Where do you guys see it going? Where could we take it? How could we expand upon this? And really opening up minds rather than closing it and shaping it. I just want to touch on that. It's really about just looking at these belief systems and where it's leading to, because it's leading to us to repeat this system. And Joe touched on it as well, as like the indoctrination part is where it is creating so much closed-minded people, in the sense, like, I know I talk to a lot of psychology people, and not to bash psychology whatsoever, but a lot of people who go through the psychology system, the way that they're taught about psychology is that it's kind of like, a lot of it is like the answer to how the human brain works and how the mind works and stuff. And if you bring something that challenges what psychology teaches, people automatically just reject it because they say, no, like, this has been studied and scientifically studied for years and years. This is like the answer. There's no way it could be outside of that. And a lot of the stuff that, a lot of us are talking about within this shift is stuff that's outside of these boxes, and yet it's so simple and it resonates with a lot of people. But just because that we believe we need to adhere to these structures and these belief systems, that a lot of people are shunning it and turning the cheek, so to speak. So it's really just, just opening ourselves out and making it open, making it fluid, making it supportive so that we can grow and really allow these children to flourish. Yeah, the idea of them being allowed to be who they are and not putting them into boxes is something that I completely stand for. Now, Justin is in the chat right now, and I'm starting to think like Justin is the silent co-host. I wish I could get him onto a show, but I don't think he's going to do that. But he is asking how you guys feel about
what's going on with Iceland right now, and whether you think that it might be a good model for the rest of the world to follow.
Well, I think first off, Justin should get on the show at some point. Start using his voice, because we all got to kind of stand up at some point and just kind of say, hey, I got something to say too. So go ahead and get on that at some point. But that's my encouragement for the day.
You've been told.
In terms of Iceland, I can't sit here and say I know it inside out. I do know the basis of what happened, and I believe, and if anybody wants to jump in and correct me, I believe what's happened is they, I guess, got together as a whole, a group of people, and basically started to say, all right, we're not doing this anymore within their own country. That meant that they kind of, I guess you can put it, they overthrew their government, they overthrew their system of economics, and they basically, I believe they actually tried to legally go after the people who put them in that state.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, and so basically in that sense, they kind of took action on themselves in creating a new system of government and a new system of economics that they felt was fair as a people. If I'm correct on what they did there, my feelings towards that is I think it is a good model to a degree. Absolutely. It's a way of starting to say, here, we can go about making change if we actually all get together. This shows the power of numbers. I do think that where they are is a great step in moving forward. I do think, though, that it's still minuscule compared to what we can be experiencing, and I'm not saying that to put it down in any way. I do think it's an awesome step. I just think that we can go so far beyond the ideas of needing money, far beyond the ideas of needing government and needing all this sort of stuff. But I do think, and I also do realize the realism of the situation that we do have now, where we do have to take things in somewhat of steps. And I think, it acts as a model for other people to say, hey, right now with the way the world is, maybe we should start here. And
it's a good example, like just looking at that, it's actually possible to step out of the system that we're in right now.
Exactly.
And just to touch on some things, as far as I'm aware, what some of the stuff that actually happened is that instead of the governments and bailing out these corporations, they actually bailed out the people that were in debt. So they did restructure their economic system where they allowed it to be equal for everyone.
Right.
And within the governmental structure, I believe that they rewrote their constitution. Right. And they're making sure that they're abiding by the constitutional rights. Now, yeah, absolutely, I agree with Joe was saying. It is a great example, and it is a great step that we do have the power when we do come together to make conscious decisions towards change and how we can go about things in society. And I really think that it's very, very important for us to understand that looking at the future, if you look at change is the only ever constant. Everything is consciousness, and we are consciousness, and consciousness is always expanding, always growing, and always changing. And I don't think that we need to kind of look at any sort of structure and adhere to that and say, this is the way we're going to do things in the future. It's more so just about, okay, this is possible, but always continuing to look at how can we grow and how can we expand, how can we move forward. And I do think it is a really good step for us just understanding that it doesn't have to be like this, and we can work together to create a system that works for everybody.
Yeah, I'd like to actually take a look at what exactly their system looks like now, like inside out, kind of just understand how their economics works. I don't know if, Carrie, if you know any more on that, or...
Actually, I'm not. I don't know any more than you know on that.
All right, cool. Maybe Justin can chime in.
To be honest. No, he's not. Something that I was discussing with you on the break, I just mentioned it briefly, but it's something that I feel is important. People are feeling a little overwhelmed and heavy right now. I want to be able to give as many solutions to the good listeners as we possibly can, and while keeping it very real. And something that I found that you're all very, very good at is keeping it very balanced, so that you don't have to attach too much emotion, but you're left with this feeling of being full. So maybe you'd like to tackle that a bit.
Sure. I'd like to say something because, I know even just last night, I was battling with some stuff. I know Alina had to hear quite the little battle from my mind and some of the things I was putting her through and the things I was saying. Because I struggle through this stuff myself as much as anybody else. And I think the real practical solution that always seems to pull me out of it, and the thing that I tend to tell people, I know other people, and even in the CE team, seem to have a lot of, success, if you want to call it, by doing this, is a lot of just the observation and not taking things so seriously. And I know that when we get caught up in things and we look at the way things are, and yes, everybody you talk to is going through a lot of stuff right now, and that's perfectly designed that way because, we've dug ourselves this deep down the rabbit hole. Why not make it as intense as it could be? Why not get everything we can out of it? So there's nobody right now that I'm talking to that says, no, in my life, there's nothing going on. I'm not challenged at all. There's nobody around me that pushes a button. There's nothing like that. So we're all going through it. And the thing is that when we go through it, A, don't take it as seriously, and B, don't look outside of you for the reason or the blame to be pointed somewhere else. You can easily get caught up at saying, oh, it's because you are like this, or because that went like that, or because anything outside of what yourself. Instead, kind of just looking within and seeing through observation, okay, this happened. That's fine. Rather than getting caught up in what this is, instead, let's look at it and see what it brings up within me. And let's see, why am I feeling this way? Why, when this happens, do I need to react like this? Or why do I need to make that person feel like that? Or why do I feel inclined to point that finger in this way? Because when you look inside and when you observe things, that's when you can start to see, okay, where did that come from? This idea of when this happens, suddenly I have to get angry. When this happens, I have to be sad. That all comes from your body of experience and this whole idea of how we've been programmed to respond to these things. And the second you observe that and realize that, no, I don't need to react like that. And yeah, maybe that happened because I needed to come to this realization, and you stop looking outside and you look within, that in and of itself is a huge step to take, and things become a lot lighter because you're not continuing to perpetuate a reality where other people need to continue to push your buttons. Instead, you've taken ownership to a certain degree of what's going on, what it brought up within you, and are looking to move beyond that because you brought it into your perspective. You brought it into something that you're observing rather than something that you're just letting it control you through whatever emotional reaction or whatever blame reaction you might have. So definitely the practical thing, no matter what you're going through, because we're all going through stuff, is rather than looking outside, look within and just observe and see what it brings up, and you'd be surprised at how much you can notice within yourself rather than putting it on other people.
Anybody else want to add to that?
Sure. Everything he said is I absolutely agree with, and I think that sometimes what can be a response, and I know that I think we all get this sometimes when we share this kind of stuff, is a response is then, okay, so I'm always supposed to just lay down and just take whatever anybody else is doing to me until it's gone, or like how do I go about, if someone's constantly going to be putting me down and making fun of me, even if I get to a point where it's it doesn't bug me anymore because I've released it, then what do I do? Well, and that's the added thing here is that, as he was saying, you always look within first, because anytime that something is going to happen, the majority of the time it's happening so that we can look at the trigger that we do have within us. So that's the first thing that we should always look at is go within, see, okay, why am I mad? What's the belief system behind it? If you truly, honestly, and truly feel that you've cleared that aspect of it. Now, clearing we'll get into as how we can actually go about dissolving those things, but just quickly moving on to this part for a second, it's if you truly feel you've gone beyond it, meaning that trigger is no longer there anymore, then the question becomes, all right, I am now choosing to make change from a point of neutrality versus choosing to make change because I'm being challenged and I want to run away. Because the running away from it doesn't address the issue so that it'll come up again and again and again and again. And that's the challenge. And I think a lot of people are being faced with this is they might leave one relationship to go and create the exact same situation in another relationship. Or they may leave one living arrangement and they move to another living arrangement and they're finding the same challenges. And it's because no matter where we're going to go externally in our lives, we're going to create the experience internally that we need to look at. We can't just run away from the challenges, and I think that's something that humanity is being faced with now more than ever. Is we got to look at the internal aspect of things. So yeah, you can make change, and it's not about sitting down and letting people walk all over you and sitting down and basically saying, all right, well now just this sedated individual who's always just going to take whatever comes at me and just say, oh, okay, cool, and then just keep moving on. No, you address the stuff if it continues to persist and it's truly because that there's nothing else there that you need to look at. And I'm talking about sensitivities, I'm talking about whether it makes you angry, whether it makes you frustrated, all those sorts of things. Then you go ahead and you make the change. Like, for example, I'm living with my parents right now. We've been living there for however many, I guess it's been about a year or so now, and we were living on our own prior to that for a while. Now, going back home, it brought up a whole bunch of different things. What happened? Well, they were always in your face. They're always saying, hey, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? Blah, 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 blah. Not just for myself, but also my girlfriend as well was going through a lot of the same challenges that my parents were providing for her or whoever was providing for her. And basically what's happening is these buttons are being pushed. So we went back home. Here's all the buttons being pushed. Now we wanted to move out. Okay, we should probably, think about how we can get out of here. But,
Oh, we'll get back to the point of that being that there's more to the story right after this. We're just speaking with Mark, who is talking about... I was speaking with Mark, yes?
It was Joe.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe. I was speaking with Joe, and he was talking about living with his parents and different things that were coming up that he needed to let go of and not run away from, kind of type idea. So let's pick up where we left off.
Yeah, so basically where I left off was the point of, okay, so here we were back there again, and the challenges were coming up. There were still feelings both within myself, but also within my girlfriend, where it was saying, like, we need to get out of here because of this, and this, but there were still sensitivities towards the things that were happening to us. Meaning, the sensitivities were, still people were, I guess, invading sort of in our space, where they were, telling us to do things all the time, or asking that, basically not seeing any value either in the work that we do, and so seeing it as, in a sense, like kind of like a joke, and so it's kind of like, all right, well, I don't see value in that. You don't have a job then, so you're not working. So then basically you need to be doing all this stuff, or you need to start doing this, and basically just trying to pump a lot of belief systems on us. And that brought up, several challenges. I mean, there was never really any outbursts or anything of that nature, but it was more so just things of, it just kind of bugs you, it's just kind of there. And eventually it got to the point where, you let go of those, meaning we go through the process of looking inside and saying, okay, so why does that bug me? What's that all about? And then you see, okay, well, it kind of brings up some self-doubt. Okay, well, why do I have self-doubt about it? Well, because maybe, I still think that some of what goes on in the system might actually be more real than, my new understandings are making it. So it was a challenge there, right? But then after you kind of go back and you see, well, no, my understandings are true. It's just that the system does have a lot of power still. So we have to just let that go, let it be. That's where it is now. And you just continue moving forward with your truth, with what you know, with what you feel, how you want to continue and all that sort of stuff. So after that was all dealt with, I mean, we've still been there for, I would say, probably about, 5 or 6 months with really nothing that is massively button pushing, but more so just, now we're just putting together the necessary resources to move out. And so here we are, we're now in a situation where we can truly say, all right, we're ready to move on from this experience because it's not providing us growth any longer. But, there is still a level of, all right, we have to do what it takes to make the changes. So we take the steps to do the changes. And how that related, just in case we don't remember before the break, how that all ties together is, when we have the sensitivities, we do need to look at what it is that is creating the sensitivity. Then from there, when we've truly cleared it, when we've truly let it go, we can then make a new choice if the stuff continues to persist. So it's not a matter of we lay down and we just let things walk all over us, but a matter of actually, making the change once we get to a point of neutrality. So the choices that we're making are not coming from a belief system of I need to get out, I need to do this, I need to do that, but hey, I'm neutral about it, I'm ready to make a change, let's move forward. That type of thing.
Awesome. Now, as far as questions go, I have a few, and they are coming from my silent co-host, Justin. I'm going to start calling you that, Justin, my silent co-host. He wants to know if you're excited about December 21st almost being over and ready to move on without the hysteria of the doomsday. He also says that he wonders Will people be let down when such a monumental date passes and they don't receive the instant gratification expected? The world's going to be different.
What's December 21st?
So we're not paying attention to it at all then?
I've just never even heard that date before. No, I don't know.
I think there's mixed feelings with a lot of people of what's going on. I mean, it is an exciting time, absolutely. I mean, we are in some very amazing times on the planet right now, and everything that we're experiencing is unique. You know, just to step back just for a very second, like we were talking at the break there about how, you know, things are speeding up and all this stuff is coming up to the surface for us. And it seems like, you know, we were talking about how when you were younger a little bit, we could kind of experience things and then bury it and kind of push it away and say, oh, no, that doesn't need to bother me. But, you know, times we're in right now, it's kind of showing up like every week or even every day. And, you know, this is a result of the energy that's coming in on the planet right now and the state of consciousness that we're in, where it's pretty much, you know, I always say like it's a clearing and purging process where, you know, all of this stuff, all of this baggage, we're here to wrap up so that we can move forward into a new experience. And, you know, just to put the 21st very simply, there are scientific levels and stuff. I don't know if we even have to go into that right now, but, you know, it's just really, it's a time of observation and it's a time of choice. And I feel that, you know, it's very easy. You know, I see on Facebook all the time, and even just with people that I talk to, that some people that aren't necessarily very conscious of the shift that's going on, a lot of people are falling into a victim state of like, oh my God, like why is all this stuff coming up? And they don't really understand, or they can't really see why. And I think that's what it's really important for us to share this sort of information so that people can gain that clarity and stuff, because, you know, there is so much misinformation out there, and there is so many differing views on what December 21st is all about, and it can be very confusing. And I think that, through this observation and really going inside and feeling what resonates with us most is most important in this time, because it can really allow us to navigate things through our experiences more easily. And shouldn't say a lot, you know, I know my personal, I guess, inspiration behind this work is to really assist people to be able to transition through this shift as smoothly as possible. And, you know, there's a lot of fear stuff being thrown out there. There's a lot of this doomsday stuff and whatever else. And even people who have an idea of what's going on, there's still like a little bit of level of doubt and stuff. So, I mean, there are planetary alignments happening, there are energetic shifts, and a lot of people are feeling it. But, you know, do we need to experience this big heyday Armageddon type deal? Absolutely not. And I think on some levels it is going to be a lot like Y2K for many people, where there was so much hype about it that all the computers of the world are going to shut down and there's going to be absolute chaos and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, as much as I don't know, maybe, you know, there might be some energetic stuff like that. I don't know. I have absolutely no idea. But at the same time, we don't need to fall into that. You know, we've been there. We did it with Y2K. And you know, we look at it and we laugh about it now, you know. So I think it's just really about just observing and just going through this and just looking at the change that you can make within your daily life, and whatever happens collectively, you know, we just kind of go with it as it comes. And whatever we're experiencing, no matter what, we don't need to fall into a fear state. We absolutely have the power to make choices at any time, no matter what presents to us. And just that power moving forward, I think, can really make things a smoother transition.
So it's the idea that the 21st really holds no bearing either way. It's not going to make you happy or sad to see it go by.
Yeah,
partial, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think to what I think happens a lot, and this is just kind of a natural thing, that we take all of our, you know, information externally, and we always feel external as being human. Everything feels external. It's, you know, my body. How are things affected externally? You know, the information I get, it's always about external. If I have a problem, I always look externally. What you realize is that this whole thing with dates, with levels of consciousness that are coming in, with things that are happening, with all these, various pieces of information, which I've come to the conclusion I feel are, in our times, it's just kind of useless information. It doesn't give you something that says, this is useful for me to actually share this with others. I mean, sure, if they're asking very specifically about it and it feels, all right, yeah, there is something that's going to be happening on 2012 and it just might be a little bit of an energetic change, cool. But for the most part, regardless of whether you hear the date December 21st, 2012, or you don't hear the date December 21st, 2012, you're still going to feel whatever effects are supposed to or not supposed to happen on that date. So it's the whole talk about it that I find is it becomes distracting, where people are now very much just interested in the information aspect of things, but aren't paying much attention to practical aspect of things. And I think that's where a lot of what you can say, this movement, that's where a lot of it has gone now, is it's about information. It's about what's the latest, greatest, what's the craziest thing that's happening next, and when is it, and what date, and what's it called, and what consciousness is it from, and what all this sort of stuff. None of that matters. What matters is right here, right now, and what's practical. And I think that's where this needs to be with a lot of things, is just looking at, okay, so, here we are. I have this challenge. Let's go. Let's address that. Here we are. We know we want to make some changes in the external world, in the food industry. Boom. Go focus on that. If you want to make changes in the economic industry or the economic platform, go do that. Whatever it may be that you're interested in because you're not feeling the excitement towards, use the new consciousness that you're feeling come in, meaning the new ideas, the new way of thinking, the new feelings, and go and use that in change instead of just, what's it supposed to look like? Then I'm going to go and create that. Or what does the new consciousness say and define that it looks like? And then go, just allow yourself to go and create it instead of just saying, all right, what's out there? Someone guide me and tell me what to do based on what ETs are channeling, this, that, or whatever. Just let it be and let it flow and let you do your own thing type thing. So yeah, December 21st, 2012, I mean, other than the fact that the whole world is going to explode, I wouldn't worry about it.
Oh, good answers. I loved it. Okay. Now, another question. How are you guys dealing with people when they can handle seeing, say, the college or the military-industrial complex, faults in government, all of these things, but then they lose all interest when you say something about, say, chemtrails or fluoride? How do you find balance with these people? People, just some people that are half on and half off, that seem so awakened to certain things and not to the other. Well, you can turn around and say, well, there's those people that are awakened to all these things and spiritually they're not, or there's so many different types of human foibles. But when you're in your groove and you're talking to somebody and they seem so on point, and then all of a sudden you realize that there's this whole other shelf that they're missing, not necessarily missing, but haven't opened up to yet. How do you guys deal with that?
I think the key thing is to just kind of respect their journey and respect where they're at, and to not get caught up in what they do accept and what they don't accept, and to instead just focus on the work that we're doing. Because when you come across people that get hung up on all different things. I mean, you have the people that get hung up on the religious side of things. You have people that get hung up on anything that deals with the scientific side of things. You have people that get hung up on things like fluoride or something specific in regards to even the sun or to meat and eating vegetarian and stuff like that. There's always going to be people that are going to have a heavier amount of, sensitivities towards particular subjects. And, I mean, rather than making our work around them and try to appeasing everybody, we just try to work, and I know this is something we've put a lot of effort in as of late, and especially going into the magazine, is making sure that everything we do, we support it as much as we can, so that even when there are the naysayers or those who may have a bigger body of rejection to it because of their whatever past experience or because of what they're holding on to, whatever the case may be, there's a little bit more there for them to look at to potentially open it up. And if it doesn't open them up, it's not something that we make our responsibility. It's not to take on the responsibility of anybody else. It's instead just to take on the responsibility of what we present and doing it from a place of love and doing it from a place of supporting it as much as we can. I mean, a lot of the stuff that we write, especially in regards to subjects that relate to like consciousness and stuff like that, for many people it's hard to quantify it in the way that their minds may be used to having things quantified. But for some of the other things in regards to science matters or any of the other things I said before, there is a lot of stuff that we could provide to, and that's something we've been putting a lot of effort towards, and we've been getting a better response. And for the most part, if people still have issues that come up with it, it's not something that we can, in particular, try and make it more convenient for them. Instead, we just do as much as we can, and we don't pull things out of our ass, for no better way of saying it. We pull things out of either coming through our own experience directly or from things that we've come across and know to be true. That's why we're sharing it, because we want to make it in public awareness as much as we can. So that's kind of the best way that we find to deal with that. I know it's something we've been looking at quite a bit as of late.
That's awesome. I think that's the best way to do. You have to. It's practicing non-attachment to everything.
Yep.
I mean, I remember at the beginning of my experiences, I was so frustrated constantly with people not getting it. I still get frustrated because I realize I'm still attached a little bit, and I think that's only good for me to understand where I sit.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
If I could add to that there, guys, it's a great point. Is in that state of the detachment, really, when you're grounded and centered yourself, there's just comes through you, and you feel just guided to share whatever you're guided to share. And a lot of times I find that people who are caught up in a lot of stuff, like whatever avenue it is that you guys mentioned, there's always an underlying answer or sense of clarity that they're looking for at the soul level. And I find that can come through in that state of detachment when we're not judging or getting caught up in what it is that they're playing with, because it's more so being concerned of what their soul wants rather than what their mind is. And I find that a lot of times there's like almost a facade that comes through. It's where like someone could ask you a certain question about one thing, but really they're kind of leaning towards something else.
It's time to go off to our next break, and we will be right back with our very last segment with the Collective Evolution for today on AmericanFreedomRadio.com. Welcome back to AmericanFreedomRadio.com. This is the last segment of Lifting the Veil with Collective Evolution for this time around. Matthew, please continue where you left off.
I would love to. Just very simple and quick. What I was talking about, it's a good question. What was I talking about? I just had it and I just forgot. Yes. Detaching from when we're sharing things. It's important because, in that there's a difference between when we're sharing from a belief, sharing from our ego, or sharing from our hearts. And not only does it come from a different energetic vibration, it's a different consciousness altogether. And, as long as we're detached, we're in that state where we're just in a peaceful, neutral state, clarity can come through. And, I find that's the most powerful state that we can be in, because whenever we're sharing something and it comes from a place of peace, it really can't be attacked. A lot of times it just comes through. It just comes through you in a sense where, people just take that in, and it really can plant a seed in someone. And it's important to also detach from the result of that situation as well. Because, a lot of times, I know this come to me before, I've experienced where you try and figure out how to say the exact perfect thing, but really there is no right or wrong way to go about it, and there's no perfect thing to ever say. It's just about sharing whatever you feel guided to share and detaching from how the person responds, because people take things in differently, people process things differently and stuff. So it was just being in that state and not allowing yourself to get into an ego battle, because it's just going to perpetuate this consciousness. It can close people off, it can shut people out, and really being observant of where it's coming from within you. Like, because I see it in a lot of people where if you're talking about something and they'll want to share something, but sometimes it's coming from a state or something, and they don't actually really realize where it's coming from. So that detachment and that observation is really important, to just ground yourself and see where it's coming from.
Yeah, just on that note of you're just saying finding the perfect thing to say type thing, I think, this is Joe, by the way, just adding to that in the sense of something that I've kind of learned through my whole thing, is that really this new consciousness that's coming in, or this change that's coming in, isn't a matter of what words that you use or what identity you take on or anything like that. It has nothing to do with the words. It has everything to do with just change that's happening like a conscious change, a awareness that is changing and that is growing. That's all it really is. So you can still use the same lingo, the same words, everything like that to explain it and to get it all across. And to be honest, it will resonate easier with people because you're allowing to actually go into something that they can understand. And I think that's what happens. And at the same time, when we do look at like the challenge that you brought up earlier, how do you deal with some challenges where people they understand part of something where maybe it's they understand the economy part or they understand the government part, but they don't understand other parts about maybe religion or this, that, or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, again, it comes down to that is still the shift. Them just being aware of those other things and becoming aware of those, that's still the shift happening within them. It's just not happening in the exact same way, and it's happening at a different pace or at a different time or whatever it may be. And so I think it's also important to detach from how we share, from the words we use, from the approach we take, because really, the message is the message regardless of the words. It's still the same consciousness. It's still the same message. So why not be able to reach people? Hey, this person, I can speak like this. This person, I can speak like that. This person, I can speak like this. And you're able to kind of share that exact same consciousness in a way that is not about repeating, but it is in a way that is about you're just sharing that message to individual people that it will speak to them, will allow them
versatility.
What? Sorry?
It's versatility.
Exactly. And it'll allow them to take in what you're saying. And it also realize that it's not about creating a one-type way of doing things and a one-type way of sharing things and words and then catchphrases and all these different things. It's really, the new consciousness has nothing to do with words. It has nothing to do with any of that sort of stuff. It's just a new way of being.
No, that makes more sense. It's about not expecting anything out of anybody, really.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Now, we are coming to the end of the show, and I do want to make sure that the good listeners know everything that you guys are up to and what to expect from you and how to find you and all of these really amazing things. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk a recap on the new web magazine and all the other things that you have in the works right now.
Sure. I could do that rundown. If I forget anything, the guys can jump in and finish up whatever I didn't touch upon. But the first thing, obviously, if anyone wants to just know more about us in general, the best thing to do is to go to our actual main website, which of course is www.collective-evolution.com. The big thing that Carrie was just alluding to is the magazine, which I mentioned earlier is the big thing that we're really excited to release. Right now, what's available is actually a free preview of a kind of a sample of what to expect from the magazine. And that's kind of our December, I guess, free preview issue, although it's just a little sampling of what the actual thing, but it also tells you a little bit more about what to expect in the full version, which starts in January. It's a monthly magazine that covers a whole variety of subjects and goes a lot deeper than we've ever gone before, either in our documentaries or even in a lot of our articles and stuff like that. And it gives you kind of an interactive look at a lot of things, and it's designed to become a resource to guide people through this shift. And it's going to have a lot of practical things that we could do. It's going to touch upon a lot of subjects that people want to know about. And it's also going to have a lot of funner elements to it. So it's definitely something that's worth checking out. The best way to probably check it out, I mean, if you go to our site, there's tons of links to it almost everywhere you go. But if you want to go to it directly, again, collective-evolution.com/magazine will bring you to the main page where you'll find out a little bit of information. That'll also have the link to go to the preview copy if you want to check out that, and also subscription information, which you want to make sure you do before January, so you are already signed up when it comes to the point where the bigger issues actually start. Aside from that, we also have recently started doing, once again, it's probably been about a month now, if not longer, CE Radio, which we do through Blog Talk Radio. That's something that you can definitely follow both through Facebook or even just following our work in general, even on Twitter and stuff like that. So that's something we do. We have a lot of weekly shows, such as like a weekly meditation that we have. We also have a regular show where we have guests. Like this past week, we just had Richard Dolan on. And we also have a bunch of other shows that are worth checking out, including one that we had a couple episodes that's waiting out till next year featuring Franco De Nicola. So there's quite a few things that we have on the go. And in addition to all that, we have, of course, the website continually on the go and our documentary. We're still working on the third one to the Collective Evolution trilogy, which we are moving forward. We do have a pretty clear direction of how it's going to happen now. It's just a matter of getting a lot of it done. And it's something that we're doing at the same time is also working hard at a lot of the stuff of the site and the magazine and the radio and everything like that. So that's definitely something to look forward to. But again, the best way, either through Facebook, following Facebook, being a friend of, or liking, I guess, if you want to call it that, Collective Evolution, or on Twitter, following at Collective Evol, not Evil, but Evol, EVOL, or again, just going to our main website, and that'll link you to absolutely anything. And we're all very approachable people, and yeah, that's pretty well the rundown. I don't know if I forgot anything. The guys can cut me off or tell me more.
Awesome.
I'll expand on that. Thanks for that. Actually, that was awesome. I just want to, this CE magazine is something that we're really, really excited about. And, like he was saying, it's really, we're just going to incorporate all the work that we do and even expand further and really just try to be a very supportive, outlet for this information to get out there. Because a lot of people understand that the media, it's all indoctrinating stuff, and they get to choose whatever they want to speak about, whatever, and it can be difficult to find really good, solid information where you can just kind of find it all in one little package. And so we just really want to put that out there, and just to give people a little sample of what you can expect for January 1st issue. It's going to include stuff like health, alternative news, spirituality, future technologies, quantum physics, meditation, yoga, and even a good laugh. We really want to keep it light and relatable for people. So just to what you can expect in more detail for January 1st issue. Some of the articles are going to touch on, can we run our cars on water? And taking a look at some technologies for what the possibility of transportation could be like. Another one is Beginner's Guide to Meditation, and just going into why it's a good idea to practice meditation, what meditation is, and just having it be very practical for people that are at any level, whether you're a beginner or an expert. Just really looking at meditation as a whole and introducing it. Another one is the vegan and vegetarian wave that's happening right now. A lot of people are becoming more conscious of health and fitness and stuff like that, and just relating to what we're putting in our bodies and stuff. So that's going to be some great information. Another one is taking a more conscious approach to New Year's resolutions and looking at why we're doing things in a lot of the stuff that we have desires for and to experience. Another one is Earthships, taking a look inside Earthships, which are really cool. That's going to feature some awesome stuff, and there's a whole lot more stuff. We're still in the process of putting it all together and whatnot. And of course, right now we're always looking for as much support as we can get, and working with individuals who are looking to contribute certain things, whether you're a writer.
So if you want to contribute, please get a hold of the people at Collective Evolution.
AmericanFreedomRadio.com.